So today we're going to go and have a look at Tidemills. It's the western end of Seaford Beach where it meets the east arm of Newhaven Harbour basically. And the way to get there is to take this little unsignposted lane. It is signposted as a car park, and you'll probably see that there is a small car park here, but we're going to go to the end of the lane and park by the level crossing, so that it's the shortest walk to the beach. We do have to cross the railway line on a level crossing, so it's something you have to be careful of. But yeah, this is the easiest way of getting to Tidemills. So we're going to turn down here and we're going to go along this little road here. It's a little concrete road. It's only wide enough for one car, but you'll see in a minute when we get to the end there is a little parking area there next to the level crossing. So and there's enough room here for a dozen cars or so. It does get quite busy here. There's a lot of doggy walkers get down here, which never portends well when you're fishing, because what your last thing is you want is dogs coming around stealing your bait. But here we are, and there you can see the level crossing. So here we are at Tidemills. You can probably hear in the background I've got Billy Bob the vlog dog with me, and I've got a rod with me. I'm not going to do any fishing, but I'm going to do a bit of practice casting with my new rod, so we'll perhaps have a look at that as well. But let's walk down to Tidemills, walk through the old Tidemills village. We'll have a quick look at what John says about Tidemills, and then we'll have some casts. So we're coming up to the level crossing. It is a pedestrian crossing, so as it says there, look both ways. I need to keep an ear open because the trains do sound their horns, which you'll hear when I'm fishing. Quite often you'll hear the horn going off. And then we cross the railway, the left, the right, and then let's get across quickly. And we are now in the village, the old village, the ancient village of Tidemills. And you can see there actually was a railway station here at one time, Tidemills railway station. But it's long gone, long gone. So Tidemills village, it is what it says. It was a tide mill. Back here in the 18th century, they used to mill wheat here using the power of the tide, which, you know, in modern day, was quite forward thinking, isn't it? Don't know why they don't do more of that sort of thing. Yeah, I do have a video which I talk about the history of Tidemills in greater depth. I'll put a link up for that. I don't want to go into too great depth because we want to have a quick video about fishing here. But the little bridge that we're about to go over is where the tide mill used to be, and there's a timeline. So, you know, a quick look at that. So 1761 all the way up till 1940, and this is the channel that fed the mill. And underneath this bridge there are a couple of tunnels which would have been part of the old mill, which allowed the water to go in and out, powering the mill wheel, grinding the corn. It's had another history. During the First World War, I believe it was a seaplane port as well, and there was a hospital here. So yeah, I would imagine hospital is probably very nice when the sun shines, but when the wind blew it was a bit lively here because it's a bit exposed. And we should come over the top and be looking down at the mill. Just starting to see the west arm appearing over the top of the shingle there. That's the west arm of Newhaven. The outer arm came down here the other day and the waves were breaking over the top of that. And you may remember we were on the beach up that way in episode 1 of this project, looking, and we look down towards here. Tide's a bit lower today and you can see that it is starting to expose the sand over there. We're going to have a look at that in a bit. So here we go, Tidemills. Oi, come on. So, Tidemills. So what did John have to say about Tidemills in his book? So have a quick look and see what he says in the book. Well, it talks about Newhaven. It says it's a minor port with a small pier built on piles on the east side of the estuary. So you can see that there, the east arm of the port, and people do fish off there a lot. It was shut for a little while because the ferry had a minor accident and actually crashed into it a little while back, but they've repaired that, or they've created a bridge over the top, and we're going to have a look at the East Arm in a little while. The shallow, sandy Tidemills beach to the east is reached by a footpath started at the Sea Link terminal. So you can get to this from the western end by coming across a footbridge across the railway and then along the link and then down by the Sea Link terminal. So I think it's a little bit overgrown with brambles now, but you can do it. But the easiest way to get here is the way that we've just come. He says there's an easily missed track from the A259, we talked about that, don't we? Newhaven to Seaford Road, and from the Buckle pub at Seaford. Well, the Buckle pub doesn't exist anymore. We looked at the Buckle car park, so you can park at the Buckle car park and you can walk here, but it is a bit of a walk, especially if you're carrying a load of gear. So the easiest way to get here is the way we've come, across the level crossing. Flatfish caught here, especially sole and flounders. Well, I haven't seen any flounders come off here. I'm not saying that they don't catch them, but you do get some really good place off here. There's a really good place marked around about where we are, which is where I caught a place the other day. I'll put a still up from that. Lots of bass you get here. I mean, the water is a bit coloured at the moment, but you do get a lot of bass here, a lot of small schoolies. I do believe I read somewhere that the British record flounder was caught here. I think it was a record that only lasted for a few weeks, and then there was a bigger one caught elsewhere, but for a very short period of time the British record flounder stood from a fish that was caught at Tidemills. Bass in the surf, mackerel and garfish, winter, it says codlin, or unicorns we like to call them because they're as rare as unicorns, whiting and spring flounders. Newhaven East Pier, which we'll look at and we'll talk about a little bit later when we're going to have a look at it. But now I'm going to have a little cast with my new rod. So we're going to have a little go casting out a lead here, and then we'll walk down and have a look at the East Arm. Got my new rod here. It is a Ziplex M4 GT. It's meant to be a really good casting rod. It's got a glass fibre tip and a carbon body to it, so it's got lots of tip action. So it's really good for bites, and apparently it's a very forgiving rod for casting. Good all-rounder. Good all-rounder. I've coupled that up with a Penn Fathom 2 casting special, which we haven't tried on this rod yet. In fact, I haven't tried this rod at all yet. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. It's a very sexy looking rod. And although it's pre-owned, it looks like it's never been used. The guy who sold it to me said he's hardly used it. I don't think he ever used it. We're just going to be blasting out 5-ounce leads. There's no baits, we're not fishing, we're just practicing the cast. Had lots of feedback about my pendulum casts. I think the general consensus of opinion is they're pretty crap. But hey, it's work in progress. And we've got a 5-ounce bullet, if you like, as a weight. Okay, so there we go. Fathom 2 casting special and a Ziplex M4 GT, and the dog is shouting encouragement. Now I know that my casting isn't great, but it's a learning process. And gradually I'm improving. And I have to say that this rod feels great. Okay, in John's book, he talks about the path to the western end of Tidemills being next to the Sea Link terminal, and actually that's long changed. You can see the Sea Link ferry in the background there. It's not a Sea Link anymore, it's a Transmanche, and it's the Newhaven to Dieppe ferry. But the terminal is up near the main road now, Yeah, there's the bridge to nowhere in the background. It will be nice if that's opened up and enables people to get here to fish or to come and enjoy the beach. We're walking along the back of the shingle here because it's easier to walk than it is to walk along the shingle, to be truthful. You can see the path emerging there, which would be the path that brings you to here if you were to park down Quarry Road. Not Quarry Road. I will correct the name of the road later in the edit, but yeah, it's not Quarry Road. Beach Road? Might be Beach Road, actually. So there's a footpath that brings you from the end of road, which enables you to come down to the East Arm. I say it is a little bit of a walk, but not too difficult. Oh, I'm saying there's a footbridge across the railway. It might not be there anymore. Might have changed it. If it has, God knows how you get across the railway. Let's move over here and have a quick look. See how this is uncovering the sand. Just at this end it uncovers the sand, and there is some bait digging to be had here. I've waded out here with waders on and fished with a fly rod. Had schoolies and mackerel in here because obviously you're wading out the shallow, and also done a lot of push netting for shrimps along through here as well, which is around about now. Should be doing it really. Perhaps I should get my push net out and give it a go. That'd be an interesting film, wouldn't it? You get loads of interesting little fish doing that. Yeah, it's not a bad idea actually. Yeah, I might give that a go. Thought to self, get out shrimp push net, come down here with a head cam on and do some shrimping. Yeah. So this has all changed from the days of JD. Used to be able to get in here and fish into this bay area, and there were certain times when this filled up with schoolie bass or with mackerel or scad. But as you can see, there's some development going on here. I'm not sure what they're building here. But it's all fenced off now, so you can't get in there. You might be able to cast into it from the end of the pier. We'll find out in a minute. And here we are at the start of the pier. You can see that there's a scaffolding bridge they put in here. This is to make safe the area that was damaged when the ferry struck it. A bit of a sideways wind blew it sideways into the pier, I think. Did quite a lot of damage to it. Don't know what it did to the ferry. Oh look, and you know, they fenced this off so you can't get down there. Yeah, you can't get down there. So there we go, the East Arm. Let's have a walk down here, see if we can get there without the dog falling off anywhere. Come on, Billy Bob, come on. Oi, 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 come on from the edge. Just give you an idea how much sand there is bared here. It's sort of sand mixed with mud. It's quite solid. As I say, there is worm cast in here. You can't pump it though. I think there's too much shingle mixed in with it. But what you do get, or used to get in here, is what the locals used to call snakes. Large white ragworm. And that used to be the killer bait for match anglers at one time. So you'd come down here some days and it looked like a plough field. There's so much digging, because the only way you could dig for them, because they didn't make a cast, is to trench for them. So people would be trenching all the way along there. Yeah, and it's turned it into a plough field. If I get time, we might put the drone up over the top of that bit later on, before we go home, just so you can have a look at it from the air. Tide's well on the way out now, so the sand is exposing quite rapidly. Yeah. You can see the sand exposed there by the inside the West Arm. You can fish, or you could fish. Actually, it looks like you might be able to get back there now. Yeah, you can fish from this corner of the West Arm. So, and for people that are less mobile, that's a great place to come, because you can park your car there and literally fish from your car. So if you just go over there, we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. The West Arm, inside the West Arm. I think it's £2 a park in the season, but it's free at the moment. And you come down into this corner, this side of that blue car, park your car there, and fish run right next to your car. You can sit inside your car in the nice and warm, looking at your rod tips leaning on the railings. Ideal. And again, I have done a video about that, and I will put a link up about that. It gives a bit more detail. Oops. And here we go, the Tidemills ferry. Obviously French owned ferry company, Newhaven to Dieppe. Takes about 4 hours, I think. Quite a civilised way of getting to France, because you can sit down, have something to eat, put your feet up, have a bit of kip and what have you, and off you go to Dieppe, which is, again, is a very nice town to visit. Bit like Newhaven, but with character. Can I say that? You might see the harbour lights in a minute in the background. So you've got the red lights, but to the left of them, you'll see that it's a green, white, green. That basically means that there's no entry into the harbour because there's a ferry coming out. So green, white, green means no entry. A few little notices down here that you need to take note of. Do your bit for your environment, take home your litter, please do that. It's very important that we maintain a good name for fishing, and don't use lights emitting any other colour than blue. So that's something I've not read before, but essentially it makes sense, because obviously this is a navigational shipping lane here. You put red lights up or green lights up, they get the wrong message. You could end up causing someone to crash into the jetty. So here we are on the East Arm. Let's see what John had to say about the East Arm. I'm having to keep the dog on the lead because I'm worried that he's going to suddenly take a plunge over the side. So if I get pulled about, that's why. Okay, so Newhaven East Pier, or East Arm as it's known. Floatfish prawns and live pountig or mackerel catch bass close to the piles. Now I know that that's still a killer method of catching bass underneath the piles here. Little live joey pouting, definitely. Thick-lipped mullet take bread, and golden greys take harbour ragworm. So harbour ragworm, you know, little maddies, and you can actually get some maddies in the cut that used to go to the Tidemill. Mackerel, garfish, small pollock and scad take spinners and floatfish fish strip at high tide. Definitely in the summer you get a lot of garfish here, a lot of garfish. Sole and flounders. What he doesn't mention is the plaice. This is really good for plaice here now. Some cod, oh yeah, with the unicorns, and whiting in winter. Well, whiting, as we know, are a pandemic. Thick-lipped mullet abound in the harbour, but fishing areas are limited by the marina and dockside angling prohibition. So you're not meant to be fishing into the harbour mouth, although plenty do. There are good thick-lipped mullet as far upstream as Lewis, where the thin lip take over, and they're quite common. And we will be doing some work on mullet this year because I've still yet to catch a bloody mullet. The river boasts a good run of sea trout. Yeah, definitely seen sea trout coming down here. And some are taken on spinners from the piers and adjacent beaches, West Arm, on the West Arm. The West Arm is closed now, so you can't get onto it. And you can't get onto the beach. It used to be a good place for bait digging. Good conger eels are taken from the lighthouse at the end of the West Arm, that is. As I say, the West Arm is shut, so you can't go there. And there are charter boats available from the tackle dealer central booking office. That no longer exists. There is, I think, 1 or 2 charter boats still operating out of Newhaven, but you'd need to go and check in the local tackle shops for that. Yeah, so it talks about the Harbour tackle shops, long gone. Simpson Marine are now starting to do some sea tackle. They might be able to put you in touch with a charter boat. Likewise, Tools and Tackle in the town centre. They might give you some details of charter boats if there are any. And the Bait Bucket on the Avis Way industrial estate. So those are the tackle shops that are available to you now. And that's it. That's welcome to the West Arm. It's quite busy at the moment. There's another ship coming out, which you'd think, because the water's quite low, that they would be stopped. But no, there's another one going out. We're going to have a couple of little casts off here just to see how it goes. Find some way of tying the dog up so he doesn't throw himself off the side. And then we're going to see if we can get the drone up to catch that sunset. So, boom. Looks like some sort of ballast dredger going out. Maybe they're going to be pumping up some shingle. Who knows? Or they've been bringing ballast in and putting it on the ballast wharfs. That's an interesting looking ship. It's got conveyor belts and all sorts of things going on it. The Melina. And there's the pilot boat, who will have taken the pilot off that ship as it's gone out of the harbour and guiding him out. And there you can see the ferry disappearing over the horizon. He's hung around for a bit. And the sun is just coming underneath the clouds. So let's try and get down onto the shingle, onto the sand. Let's get down to the sand and see if we can't get the drone up and catch that sunset. So some nice little walnut whip worm cast going on down there. As you see, there are worm casts. There's worm down here to be had, and in fact there's somebody over there pumping worms. Is he pumping or digging? No, he's digging. Yeah, he's digging. So he's got a shovel to do it with a shovel. I think, as I say, I think you'd struggle to pump down there because there's too much stone in the sand. But we'll maybe go over and chat in a minute, see if he's got any. Right, so Paul very kindly letting us film while he's digging. And he's getting some nice big fat black lug. I mean, look at that. Most of you have probably never seen a black lug what it looks like when it comes out of the sand. They are big and fat.
I keep them live.
Yeah.
For the morning.
Yeah.
And they're fine. All still full.
Yeah.
They don't die overnight. But
no.
I don't use them tomorrow.
Yeah, skin them out.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Put them in paper.
Yeah. I mean, off fresh out's obviously out fish bloody strip black.
Yeah, I caught a nice place the other day off the arm.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going to fish tonight on the arm? Is it or tomorrow?
Yeah. Fish the side up.
Right,
it's
so
very, very stony here.
Yeah. But I mean, as I was saying, is you probably can pump here, but back in the past when I used to pump here, every second pump you were hitting stones and it damaging your pump and all sorts of things. I tell you, I never did get the digging from. I just couldn't follow them.
I started at 14.
Yeah, well that's it. There is an art to it. It looks like easy, but it ain't.
Yeah, then you have to know where they are.
Yeah.
And you have to be brave and put your hand down into the rocks and stones. And you dig through the surface of the shingle, following the line of the hole.
Yeah, I can see the hole there. Yeah, so the hole's there. I just saw it.
Them.
Yeah.
Can't see this one.
It was there actually. I saw it. I mean, here it is. Yeah, I mean, I made a shovel up and everything, but it's getting a shovel with a flat enough blade. It's getting it flat, and it's got.
Need a man with a forge to
Yeah,
straighten them out.
yeah.
I went online when my last one was down to the size of a spoon.
Yeah.
I couldn't find one online. Put it in Google. No. Could not find a
No.
lug spade.
No, no.
But I went down to get one made.
Yeah.
And the guy says, well, I've given it up, you can have mine. Result.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I did buy, I bought, I think it was an old spade, it was a spade that had been cut down, so it was narrow, but it was angled.
Yeah, no,
and I heated it and bashed it and straightened it, but it was still not right.
No.
It's got to be absolutely in line with the handle, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you'd be absolutely amazed how fast you can get doing this in clean sand.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean, to be quite honest, if it was clean sand, I'd be using a pump. Yeah, I mean, you can just see how many stones there are there. You know, if you're not familiar with pumping, those would be causing you problems with a pump. They'd be catching the pump all the way down. Beauty. Yeah. Well, Paul, mate, I'm sorry. Thanks very much for this.